Cutting down on waste by going present-free this Christmas. This is the focus group.
It's the savvy side of 9 to 5. Listen.
Bueller.
Laugh. And learn.
Negotiation. This is what you do in business.
This is the focus group with Tim Bennett.
Staunch.
And John Nash.
Keep your clothes looking neat and clean.
We're all business. Except when we're not.
Hey, welcome to the focus group. John Nash here with my good friend and co-host, Mr. Tim Bennett. And apparently we both got the memo today because we're both wearing plaid, and we only noticed that when the cameras went on. Anyway, focusgroupradio.com is the URL for our website. Go there to check us out. Our video and audio is posted there. And while you're there, check out TFG Unbuttoned. That's our Tuesday podcast, 20 minutes long, 3 topics. We invite you to subscribe, like, and rate us with the podcast and with our normal show as well. That's there as well, too. So I'm being distracted by our
Thanksgiving plaid.
Our Thanksgiving plaid. Everybody got the memo. Plaid. Although, as you pointed out, yours is black and gray and white, and mine is purple and white and gray. Yes.
I had a red one, and I couldn't find it. I had a buffalo plaid
big
shirt, but I couldn't.
plaid.
Yeah, I couldn't find it. So I'm with the black and white, which I've worn once before back in the day.
So here we are at Thanksgiving weekend, and so it's Turkey Day, and then it's Black Friday, which to me, I ignore Black Friday completely, but, and then there's Cyber Monday, right? Is that how it works? Yeah, so it's Black Friday, Cyber Monday.
Cyber Monday, they some of them started it after Halloween, remember?
Yeah, they already have
doing
deals are available.
Ridiculous car commercials with snow in them in October and November, but, well, I don't know.
So if you want to reach us, by the way, feel free to drop a note to letters@focusgroupradio.com. And a number of you do write now and then, and I just wanted to mention a note we got from one of our listeners, Heather. And Heather actually knows that I'm a big animation fan, and she turned me on to something that I had not really been aware of before, and I should know this, but she said, hey, John, check this out. There's this whole movement about people bringing back something called rubber hose animation. So I had to look this up. And rubber hose animation is the way the characters move. It's kind of like Betty Boop. Remember they had this kind of their long arms, and it was like a hose or something. So she turned me on to that, and I checked it out. And there's a whole archive you could check of these old cartoons that are rubber hose animation. I never heard of it, and I thought I would have gone through
funny,
years
but
of.
I know exactly what you mean now. By some of those characters that would do the kind of they were very limber,
like a horse would do. Yeah, and we've all grown up with it. We've seen it. So here's one other thing I was going to show you. I'm going to what do you think of this? I'm handing Tim
what is it?
A catalog that I got from Amazon.
An Amazon catalog?
Yeah. And the first thing that I thought when I flipped through it, so it came about
Explore these gifts and more at Amazon. So it reminds me of the little books we had as kids, the little golden books.
But flip through it. You're going to, stickers, pictures of all the toys.
God, holiday list.
What do you think what does that remind you of from your own childhood?
So kind of the Sears catalog?
Exactly, the Sears Christmas wish book.
We didn't get stickers, did we?
No, we didn't get stickers, but we got a catalog that made us definitely want all the toys in there, right? Because it shows kids playing with Play-Doh and all this other stuff. And
to talk to Brian Johnson, though, he's at Amazon. Some of this photography could have been better.
Well, I wasn't critiquing the photography, but I am surprised that Amazon, being, this whole digital presence, would put out a catalog that is, in my opinion, a complete throwback.
What the hell are the Journey Girls? Are they a ripoff of Barbie?
They look like a ripoff of the American Girls, actually.
Look at that Journey doll. Well, Journey Girls.
A little Jeep, but...
And instead of what is it, Dora the Explorer, it's Adora. It's right out of China. You sure this isn't the Alibaba book? Goodbye Pussy instead of Hello Kitty?
But aren't you surprised that in our hyper everything order online digital age, this good old-fashioned toy catalog comes in the mail?
Well, and it's what kids used to love, right? Because, and if you're watching online, I'm looking at a page now, which as a kid and you probably would have loved this. There was a plane. There's a train. There's a train. There's a race car.
Looks like a
there's
Hot Wheels kind of
all
thing.
kinds of stuff. And as a kid, you're not going to get that on the website.
No.
So you can look and say, I kind of like that, the way it's set up.
So here's another vote for the nonlinear experience, right? So
And here we go. We've got the little child boy at the kitchen.
he's the boy.
So
Okay.
we want to make sure we don't
2019.
exploit gender roles.
Boys can have an easy bake oven too, right?
Then they got the girl at the baseball thing.
There you go. And I don't think they even label those as boy or girl toys.
No,
either.
you're not allowed to anymore, John.
But here we are, a 2019 version of a throwback to our childhood, and it's basically the Sears Wish book, right?
Yeah.
I thought you'd get a kick out of it.
Yeah. I have some other comments about it, but I probably end up.
What
getting
other
in
comments
trouble.
do you have about it?
Well, it's forced political correctness.
Well, I am. You bring up a great point. I'm sure that when they sat and they art directed it and they
Oh my
talked
God.
about the setups and everything, everybody had a hand in it. Like, you want to show this, you want to show that.
this, show
But
that. But
ignoring that, it's a good old
so
fashioned.
did this just come in the mail?
It came in the mail about a week ago. Yeah, right on time for Christmas and for ordering.
But it does remind me of one of those little storybooks we had as a kid.
Golden
with
books,
that,
yeah.
With the spine.
This is called perfect
color.
binding when they do a square edge.
It
Perfect
used to be
bound.
gold, I think.
Yeah, it was the Golden Books was the yeah.
Wow.
So there you go.
It's very good. Are you going anywhere for Thanksgiving?
We are hosting, and our numbers keep growing, much to the dismay of Bob.
Well, John, you have to be, waifs and strays.
I understand that you have to be like super flexible at these times, but and I just said, honey, let's just put a board across the bathtub and let two people sit in the bathroom away from everybody else.
You and Bob.
Well, at first that's a
Order
great.
up and then you two
That's
go to the
actually a great
bathroom and you-
idea. I think that the hosts disappear, right? It would be better to put the people we don't even know, like you have to go in here.
So how many you got? 10, 11, 12?
11.
Who's bringing the booze?
We have a lot of wine ourselves.
wine.
We're having cocktails at Pat and Gary's place beforehand. 'cause
So a
they're-
progressive.
It's a progressive Thanksgiving, yeah. And then by the time, and I really
You go
wanna-
somewhere for dessert, or you do dinner
no.
and dessert at your house?
If we went anywhere for dessert, I'd be like, bye-bye. I'll have a cookie here. Done with that, right?
You don't like entertaining.
I don't mind it. I don't mind it, but I do mind when it kind of spirals out of my control. As in, oh, guess what? We're bringing someone new. So it was very fun to watch. Bob has weeks ago, he already began planning arrangements and what's going to move. And
Plan that morning. You and I would do that. If you and I were having people over, would you have had the place setting set out? Like he's like Richard that way, where we're going to use this place setting, talking about it in September. When did you think about it? The morning of.
I think he
We
might have
need a plate.
actually ordered plates,
Oh my gosh!
like extra plates or something, about 4 months ago. Like that. That's where
Paper?
they're China. That's where. Yeah. I would have gone Corelware.
Throw it away. Get a big bag. Done.
And then, so Thanksgiving is one of my favorite holidays, actually. And we had a fun time last year, but it tends to be a blur when you're entertaining. When you're the host, it's the whole thing goes by. You're like, wow.
You set all up on the counter. People come by and get like buffet. You sit down.
So we're going to he finally caved in on the kiddie table. So our
You need a
table,
kiddie table.
we have a table that opens up with 2 leaves to seat 8 or 9 people. And I said, with this number of people, just set up
Another
a little 4-person
Yeah.
table. I'll eat there. I don't care. It's
Card table.
You're there you're sitting for half an hour, 40 minutes, maybe an hour with. So he finally acquiesced to that, and then he had to bring the table back from the country, and now it's chairs, it's this, it's that. So, spun up.
Well, I'm going up to Connecticut where the past is still present. See my family.
All right, so what caught your eye this week of
What
Thanksgiving?
caught your eye? Here's what Tim and John found.
So I've seen this in I've seen a lot of this stuff online and actually went down a hole watching a lot of these videos online. But, these gender reveal parties people are having now, to me, which is just another example, another excuse to have a party or to have.
Wasn't someone recently fatally wounded?
Yes, which I laughed about. The
They made their own version of like a
Well, everybody's trying to outdo one another. So how these used to happen was for expecting parents, they would have a box or they would have something, and then they would open balloons, and the balloons would come out, and it would be either pink or blue, boy or girl. So if you're watching on the video, here's some that have stunts that have gone wrong. The one on the left is the one that just recently in October, the end of October, the woman was killed.
Unfortunately, yeah.
I laughed. I mean, I know I shouldn't laugh, but this guy did this huge bomb.
He packed. It was a pipe bomb, basically.
But he didn't know it when he made it, right?
No.
And it flew 45 feet or whatever. Shrapnel killed the woman. I guess they're happy about the wedding reveal. The other one is a plane. They had a crop duster drop off all of this pink dye, flew over the party, and then the plane crashed in Texas, Turkey, Texas. The next one has one of my favorite pictures on it. So there's a hippo that somebody did a reveal. They went to the zoo and they had these watermelons, and they were throwing the watermelons at the hippos. And when the hippo would bite into it, it either had pink jello or blue jello in it. And this one obviously was a boy. They said it wasn't good for the hippos to do this. People were kind of upset by that. They've used alligators. They've used all kinds of different animals where they'll throw things in and the animal will eat it, and whatever color comes out of the mouth is what the baby was.
Someone thinks of this?
Yeah.
Wow.
The other picture there on the far right was Arizona. This was a border guard. He burned 42,000 acres of land, and they were shooting a gun to try to like pop something, and then it had a massive wildfire, $8 million worth of damage, and it was 47,000 acres of wildlife in southern Arizona were ruined. It said he shot a target filled with an explosive powder, and he didn't expect it to spread. And then my favorite one.
But don't forget, there's an item on there that these are costly mistakes. He was fined $220,000 for that.
That's a mistake.
Wow.
My favorite one is the couple in the bottom left, and her face just says it all. If Tim and John worked at the balloon company, this is what we would have packed. So they had a little box. And the couple opened it up expecting to see either the pink or the blue balloons, and the people got the order mixed up, and out came Rainbow. Look at her face. She's furious. So she's either having a gay child. They were so mad. So if you go to YouTube, you can just type in gender reveals gone wrong. And I laughed so hard. There was one with a dog. They were trying to play ball, and the ball was supposed to explode, and the kid missed the ball. The dog picked up the ball and took off, and they couldn't catch the dog with the ball, so they didn't know what the baby was. I mean, there's all these sort of things where stuff are falling on people. But have you been to a gender reveal party?
No. And I don't. This is a rather new phenomena, isn't it?
It's very new. They said there's huge pressure now to publicize what was once a private moment, and everyone is trying to outdo the other, and a lot of people are getting hurt. So they did a whole thing on CNN about this, with the latest one being this plane that crashed in Texas. But we got young boys in the booth. I don't know, Steve and Garrett, have you guys been to any gender reveal parties?
We have Robbie Bobby in the back.
Robbie Bobby's back there?
Never once.
Never even avoided one. Like made up an excuse to miss one or anything, no?
No.
Yeah, now I'm feeling weird, like I've never been invited to one.
Well,
Should I be mad?
Well, I think eventually you will be. You guys are, when your friends start getting married and they have kids, or they're going to have kids, you don't need to be married, I guess.
My friends are getting divorced.
Already?
I'm 42. 41.
Already
42.
getting divorced.
Yeah.
That's
Are you
early.
41 or 42?
42, I think. 41. 41.
I don't like that you lost track.
Yeah. Well, no, that happens, Steve.
All right.
I lost track a while ago myself.
That's what caught my eye. So what caught your eye, Mr. Nash?
Just in time for the holidays, and as I teased at the beginning of the show, we were talking about people going without presents to avoid waste. We'll talk about that later, but this caught my eye because when I was younger, this was the thing to have. It was a digital watch. Now, either it was made by Casio, and it's usually black with that red thing, and you have to push the button to get the time. How inconvenient, right? You have people going like this.
Like an Apple
Timex,
Watch.
though, has come out with a revival of their T80. And it's totally in the face of anybody. Here, there's a little video playing if you happen to be watching on
that
YouTube.
Painted gold. That was not gold. Remember how you would
T80.
peel off?
I think the T80 can store up to 10 phone numbers. It has a calculator built in as well. How charming. So the company has dug into the archives and revived this watch. If the idea of strapping yet another glowing distraction to your wrist makes you want to escape into the wilderness and live out your life in a secluded, disconnected log cabin, the Timex T80 is for you. Ironically, while the watch seems primitive as far as digital watches go, with a black on gray 7-segment LCD display and time, date, alarm, and stopwatch, it probably had the same effect back in the day on watch snobs. So when digital watches came out, people were like, "Oh no! A watch with the face is the only way to tell the time." Casio was one of them we just talked about. I had one of those. So this retails for $59 to $65, depending on the color and the style of the case. Stainless steel band you want is an option as well. For an extra $14, you can get the face around I didn't get a picture of that. Around it, there's a Pac-Man images. So it could be a Pac-Man digital watch, which was kind of... It doesn't play the game, but it was just a nod to the Pac-Man.
You said they have to do these things, too, I was reading, because kids can't tell time on a regular watch.
Seriously?
They don't teach how to tell time anymore. They don't teach you how to write script, and you don't know how to tell time. So they can't look at a clock and tell time. So they have to have numbers. Everything's got to be in numbers.
So that's kind of fat. So the digital watch thing to me...
So there's no question, right? It was 1254, whatever that watch said.
You know what yeah.
But if it was with the big hand and the little hand, they can't tell.
And yet I really need to see the whole face.
Well, because that's what we're used to, right?
So if I look at my watch and it's half past the hour, I know that physically that swing up is going to be 30, but it equates to what I can get done in 38. I don't know if I'm explaining that right, but there's a visual aspect to time telling that's not just the numbers on a watch.
No, I don't disagree.
So that was what caught my eye.
You said something in there, though, which it kind of triggered something with me. I had this happen with a friend of mine, and I think you and I both have had this issue. You said it stored phone numbers.
Yeah.
So a friend of mine got in an accident, and he called me. Luckily, I picked up the phone, but I was the only phone number he remembered.
Oh, yeah.
Because all his phone numbers are in his phone. He said, I just either say, call Bill or call Lori or whatever, and I don't have numbers memorized. Now, I have yours memorized because you've had the same one forever, as you probably have with mine. But I would be in a world of hurt if I needed to call somebody whose number I didn't memorize.
I'd have to call it up. We don't. I used to remember 5 phone numbers. It was some office number, home, maybe at parents' house. We had a.
But if you were in an accident and your phone got lost or whatever happened, and they said, "Okay, you want to use my phone to call somebody,"
my finger would,
you'd have to figure out who you're going to call. So that's why he called me, because I was kind of like, why? He goes, you're the only numbers I remember, because I knew your number from before I had everything stored in my phone.
Wow.
People's names. Can you please call so-and-so and so-and-so and so? I said, sure. I mean, I felt sorry for him, but I didn't. It was a weird thing.
Wow.
Think about.
Well, when I go cycling, I take my phone with me, but let's say you have an accident on your bike. There's every likelihood that regardless of where the phone is and what pocket or whatever, it could fly away. Yeah. They might not find it. So I always wear one of these, it's like a life alert thing. It's like a little it looks like a dog tag. And it has our upstate phone number, the city phone number, which I have to think about now because I think we're getting rid of that landline. But in fact, they're both landlines now that I come to think of it.
You got to put your cell phones on there.
And then I had read somewhere that you can set up an emergency screen on your phone for first responders. So even if your phone's locked, a first responder can they can do something where it calls up, like, in case of emergency, call this number. Or,
if they do that.
I really thought about it because I had read an article that they've run into problems where they can't unlock someone's phone and they don't know who they are. Is there a medication issue? If they brought them to the hospital, are they allergic to anything? And it came about because I read an article about a guy who went on a bike ride one day. He leaves his house, he rides down a hill, and just as he's getting to the bottom, a hill he rides all the time, a car backed out really fast. The next thing he remembers was waking up in a hospital 4 or 5 days later. Oof. And it took 2 days for the hospital to figure out who the next of kin was.
Oh my gosh.
Because he went on a ride without any ID. He just had maybe $20 bill and some other stuff. Because it was a ride he did all the time. So
I thought about that too when I used to go out rowing. No one had any ID on them or running or anything. Well, Business birthday.
Everyone does celebrity birthday greetings, but the Focus Group is the only show in the universe that celebrates business birthdays.
Calvin Coolidge Worthington. Yes, he was named after Calvin Coolidge. Worthington, born November 27th in 1920, died September 8th at 92 years old in 2013. He was an American car dealer, best known on the West Coast. He was known for his unique radio and television advertisements for the Worthington Dealership Group. All of them began with the announcement, "Here's Cal Worthington and his dog Spot." And Spot was never a dog. Spot was often a tiger, a seal, an elephant, a chimpanzee, or a bear, and one ad he had a hippopotamus. On some occasions, Spot would be a vehicle or an airplane or some other sort of motorized vehicle. According to his profile, which was published in 1990, he grossed $316 million in the late 80s alone, making him the largest single car dealership at the time. He had an ad agency for all his advertising. It's called Spot Advertising.
Spot.
And he was the only client, and it had billings of $15 million a year.
There's some tax thing going on.
Of course there was. Ernie Bach did
That's-
the same thing. That's at Subaru up in New England, if you're familiar with him. Same sort of character. But the interesting thing was these people, I often marvel about how smart people were. So he always wanted to be a pilot. He didn't have a college education, and he said he kind of fell into the car business. He hated selling cars, but he fell into it. Never owned a car, by the way. He just drove whatever they had on the lot.
Isn't that something?
But he decided back when he moved into L.A. that he could only afford to buy late night television
TV.
advertising, like after midnight with the Late Late Show or the movies, and he would saturate. He was on every channel in Los Angeles from like 12 until 4, and just saturate the market. And he did that for years. And so he would just buy whatever the cheap ads were.
It's almost like buying remnant space.
Run a schedule, saturation advertising. And he was also the first dealer to abandon a traditional standalone store in favor of the auto mall, which are so popular now when you think about it. People have these auto malls. Married 4 times. Divorced 4 times. Never owned a car. And said he disliked selling cars. As I said, he died at 92 at his ranch in Orland, California, September 2013. But he was quite a character. If you're a West Coast person, I'm sure you recognize Cal Worthington.
Cal Worthington, wow.
And Carson used to make fun of him all the time.
Really?
Yeah.
Because of his ads?
Yeah, because, Carson being in L.A., right? So Cal Worthington was...
Hey, by the way, if you end up, back then, if you were a punchline for Johnny Carson, you were made. You had it made, right?
Exactly.
All right. I like that birthday, by the way. And that's a smart business and advertising birthday, because I like the way that he set himself up as the shop. We've talked about this before amongst ourselves.
Way to do it.
Hey, as many of you know, Deep Discount is a partner of ours here on the Focus Group, and we encourage you to visit their site by going to ours, focusgroupradio.com. Click on the Deep Discount logo, which is a shark, but it gets the pirate treatment. It's just something I've done. I do not know why. But maybe I should analyze that. But this week, being that it's start of the season, really, because Thanksgiving's here, and the day after Thanksgiving is what? The Black Friday sale day. So Deep Discount has a Black Friday and Cyber Week sale going on. I can guarantee almost everything on the site is discounted. But there are 2 new releases, and normally Tim and I would go and pick titles to suggest for everybody. But I will say this, of the new stuff coming out, we saw the new releases, and I thought, hey, Tim, we should just focus on those because they're 2 amazing movies. Criterion Collection is releasing 2 Bette Davis movies. One of them you've definitely had to have heard of. It's called All About Eve.
Yep.
Joseph L. Mankiewicz's devastatingly witty Hollywood classic. Backstage is where the real drama plays out. Famous movie. I mean, I think it won multiple Oscar-winning All About Eve is the most deliciously entertaining film ever made about the ruthlessness of show business. It really is an amazing film. The script is fantastic. It holds up great. And being that it's the Criterion Collection, I can just tell you it's going to be chock full of great stuff, and I bet the print will look great. And the other Bette Davis movie they're releasing at the same time is called Now Voyager. Have you seen Now Voyager?
That's Matt's favorite.
Are you serious?
It's his favorite Bette Davis movie.
Favorite Betty? Really?
Now Voyager. It was her biggest box office hit.
Yeah, so we actually collected some trivia about both movies. So why don't we talk about All About Eve first? This one, the first fact that Tim found for me was fascinating, and I have met the actress that we're going to
You
mention.
insulted her.
By accident, yeah. So, Betty Davis, the role that she played was supposedly going to be played by Claudette Colbert. And Claudette Colbert had been a big star at the time, and she was in a movie called It Happened One Night. She was in something called The Egg. Famous actress. When Davis came on board, though, the screenplay was tweaked a bit to reflect her abrasive public persona. And Claudette Colbert later said, "I just never had the luck to play bitches." Now, I met Claudette Colbert at a party many years ago. I was introduced.
Must have been a million. How old was she?
Oh, she was in her late 80s. She was old. And I started speaking to her, and I said, Claudette, you sound a lot like Dame Judith Anderson. And then the conversation kind of just froze, and she went away. Apparently, she went to the host and says, "Who's that asshole over there?" And he comes over. He's like, "What did you say to Claudette?" I said, "Oh, I just said she sounds like..." You never tell an actress she sounds like anybody. Later on...
What kind of party was it?
This is like a house party in the Pines. And later on... And she knew our friend Peter Rogers because she was one of the people that did the Black Llama campaign, What Becomes a Legend Most. Later on, she came over, and I rescued myself because I saved her from, I think it was Rex Reed came to the party. And she says, "You'll be back in my good graces if you keep me away from that horrid man." So we were back in good graces. So what are some other facts here?
Well, so for All About Eve, it's still the only film in history to earn 4 female acting Oscar nominations. Which, when you think about that, because it was a while ago, right? So
Betty Davis, Ann Baxter, Celeste Holm, and Thelma Ritter. Thelma Ritter always played those wisecracking, crotchety, because she was the one that was her backstage pal. And here's one that surprised me. It was based on a true story. Did you ever know this before?
I didn't.
The story about backstabbing, blah, blah. It was actually happened to Elizabeth Bergner, a European stage and screen actress, hired a young fan as an assistant in the early 40s, only to have the girl try to steal her career. There you go. It's all about Eve.
And the other one I thought was funny was Country Gold, which was a 1982 made-for-TV movie, was actually based on All About Eve, and it starred Lonnie Anderson and Linda Hamilton. Can you imagine? Lonnie Anderson.
Lonnie Anderson. I think of
I'll have
her
to look
as...
that up.
I think of her... Was she WKRP Cincinnati?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Garrett. Thumbs up.
Tom Selleck's. Or was it Tom Selleck's girl? No.
Burt Reynolds.
Burt Reynolds.
Burt Reynolds, yeah.
Well, dark hair and a mustache.
All right. So for Now Voyager, where Betty Davis played Charlotte Vale. Spinster aunt Charlotte Vale trying to escape from her puritanical mother, played by Gladys Cooper, and she goes to a sanitarium, and Claude Rains plays the loving psychologist who helps her crawl out of her shell, and she goes on a cruise, and she meets a guy named Paul. Well, it's played by Paul Henreid, and but he's married, so they have kind of a strange love affair, but they never really consummate it. But you said it was, according to the stats here, was her biggest Hollywood hit, right?
For Betty Davis, yeah.
And then they're in the scene. There's in the movie, Paul Henreid lights 2 cigarettes simultaneously. He gives one to Betty Davis, and apparently that became something that of a thing.
Well, people would ask him that.
Could you please light 2 cigarettes? Yeah.
The other thing I found out about this movie are interesting is they seem to mine items from a lot of other movies, particularly Mildred Pierce and Casablanca. They said that the love theme from the film was later used as background music in the seduction scene from Mildred Pierce. So I'm sure if you were, like you being a movie buff, would have recognized it right away, or some of the clothing, some of the props.
So read that one about the brooch, too. I thought that was cool.
About the...
sparkly brooch.
So the sparkly brooch that Ilka Chase wears and the family scene is the same one worn by Ingrid Bergman in her white suit when she enters Rick's Casablanca.
In Casablanca, yeah.
Rick's in Casablanca. Joan Crawford wore it and Mildred Pierce. And the patio chairs from Now Voyager and the lunch scene were the same ones used in Casablanca outside Rick's.
It's all movies. It's all make-believe, right?
I'm surprised. Well, back then, right, I was looking at some of the salaries. People were getting $500 a week.
Yeah.
But anyway, hey, head over to focusgroupradio.com, click on the deep discount logo, start shopping away. These are the 2 great new releases that everybody should have in their collection. There's time to order them for that special person for the holiday. They're part of the Criterion collection, which is a great stamp of approval. So it's All About Eve and Now Voyager. So be sure to shop along and support our friends at Deep Discount. Right, Garrett?
Thanks, Deep Discount.
We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, John teased it at the top of the show about a UK family that's decided to forego presents for the holidays. So stay with us.
You're listening to The Focus Group with Tim and John. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com. Focus on the savvy side of 9 to 5 with The Focus Group.
Try, really try.
Listen, laugh, and learn with Tim and John.
I never try anything. I just do it.
Hey, welcome back to the Focus Group. John Nash with Tim Bennett. FocusGroupRadio.com is where you need to go to find out everything about us, including all the audio and video that we have every week hosted there. And be sure to check out TFG Unbuttoned, our 20-minute podcast that drops on Tuesdays. Okay, so at the beginning of the show, we talked about the headline was "The Family's Going Present-Free at Christmas to Cut Down on Waste." So the twist that I thought was interesting about this was a recognition. This is actually a UK story.
Yep.
But I think you could equally say it's going to happen here in the U.S. A recognition that, well, here's the stats. I'll just say it this way. For many, Christmas is the most wonderful time of year, but it is also the most wasteful. Now, this is UK, right? 2 million turkeys, 100 square kilometers of wrapping paper, and more than 100,000 tons of plastic packaging will be binned, which is their way of saying tossed, right, on Christmas Day, while more than a few unwanted gifts will be packed away in cupboards, never to be seen again.
So we're 3 times the size of the UK,
UK.
population. They're about 150. We're 350 million, 320 million.
So we can say 6 million turkeys.
I would guess. Now, I don't know. Do you have turkey at Christmas?
We usually
that, a
have
ham?
ham. Yeah.
But, yeah, but so...
And can we say maybe 300 square kilometers of wrapping paper or more, right?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And I think we're more of a consumer culture than the Brits.
And then all this plastic packaging that's going to get binned. I love the binned part. Binned.
But I never thought about it when I read that story. I never thought about the fact of the amount of waste.
Yeah.
When you think of all the packaging and the gift wrap and the tape and the right? I mean, it is a huge amount. Huge amount of stuff.
So this family decided they're going to, the mother, and it also, the subhead of the article is, people look miserable before Christmas. It saddens me more than anything. They're either drunk or stressed as hell. So.
And then panic buy. I saw that too. Then they said they panic buy. It's nobody wants that end up in the cupboard and never.
You're going to someone's for dinner, or you better bring a gift, So I had a conversation with my mom this year because I've been really pushing the
You've been trying to ratchet it down.
gift-free agenda for a long time. And I decided that even though I just let people know that I'm not exchanging gifts, there's no need to get me anything. I don't need anything. I'm happy to be around people. And for kids, I don't mind getting kids toys and books. I really never mind that. But adults,
Yeah.
I don't, So I'm on the phone with my mom the other day, and we were talking about Christmas. And I said, "Now, Mom, just to reiterate, we're not exchanging gifts." She goes, "Well, honey,
Oof.
I have to let you know that I've already bought things for everybody that you're going to have at your apartment for dinner," because she's coming into the city for dinner. And I part of me wanted to get angry right away, but the other part was like, wait a minute, let's hear this out. So I said, "Well, you know what?" I said, Mom, that." And she goes, "Honey," she goes, I know we said no gifts. We're talking, these are items that I've been picking up during the year. They're all under $10. And she said, "I just think it's fun to have something to open on Christmas Day." So the rationale was not that she had to give a gift. She wanted to have something that people could open on Christmas Day. And you know what? I was like, fine. I said, "Mom, that's great. You bring whatever you like."
I love the idea of putting a limit on it because you have to be more creative sometimes. If you said, if you're going to do something, it can't be over $10 or whatever. My niece implemented that. My mother broke the rules.
Well, mothers.
Our moms do. And my poor mom, she does not like because we've all been pushing the same thing of no gift, no gift. And, but she somewhat broke the rules. But the other thing I liked about this, and I know they implemented it at Subaru, and I've done this for you for your birthday. But when I was at Subaru, they did this as a consumable item. Yep. So if it's a homemade baked good, you like gingerbread or you like chocolate or whatever it is, and make somebody a home baked good or bring a food item, I think is or a pound of coffee, whatever, but something that's consumable.
Something unique, like and your pound of coffee idea is a really great idea. What if you got a coffee lover a blend they've never tried? And that's actually fun. Now, there's a part in this article that also, I think, speaks to the generational thing we're talking to. So the woman that was interviewed for this UK piece, she said, her mom, has such fond memories of Christmas. She was from a poor family and would get a tangerine, an orange, or a bag of nuts at Christmas. And she has the most wonderful memories of those tiny little things at this time of year. She said, I know society has completely moved on, but I would like my kids to have an element of that Christmas is a treat.
Brits said scurvy.
Okay.
That's why they had no citrus.
So I'm reading this, and all I kept thinking of was Little House on the Prairie. And they live in the Saudi, right? And like Christmas would be that they actually made cookies because they could afford sugar. It was something really simple like that. Or the remake of Little Women that came out many years ago with Winona Ryder. When they show Christmas, people gave a fruit, like an orange or a tangerine was a rare thing.
It was out of season. So
totally out of season,
We didn't have, you weren't able to go to Florida and have oranges shipped up by horse and buggy, right?
Yeah, so it was a real treat.
To get something like that out of season, it was a big deal. My grandmother talks about that too. To get an orange or something, which we all just would laugh at, but to get an orange or to get some sort of special food that time of year was a big treat. And
another guy they profiled named David, I don't see his last name here, but since 2003, he's decided that for his Christmas day, he'll take his dog, Natty Dread, Natty, Natty Dread, and they would do a 20-mile walk from Tadcaster to York. I love these British articles, by the way. And it would take him all day. He'd pack cheese and pickled sandwiches and some chocolate.
It sounded horrible to me, by the way.
Well,
did you read that pickle and cheese sandwiches? I guess they
cheese and
well.
pickle sandwich, a couple of chocolate bars, okay, and a packet of sherbet lemons. I don't know what those are.
Have you ever had a cheese and pickle sandwich?
No. Ugh. But he would share all this with the dog.
What's the dog eating?
But the dog passed away since this article was written, the dog passed away about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And so now David, who used to walk his dog, will do the exact same thing for a whole day, but he's going to pick up a local dog from the shelter and take care of the dog for the day and take him for a big long walk.
20-mile walk's a pretty long walk.
It is a long walk. I think it's
cold out.
So that's the gist of this is that the people are doing it not because they don't want to celebrate.
Stress of buying gifts.
Yeah, it's not necessarily about that. They looked at it from this interesting and smart perspective of why add to the pile of waste. Now, as I read
Live a simpler life.
Yeah, now as I read this article, the one thing I will say is this, if you ever talk to an economist about this, like someone who just does numbers, they will tell you that there are so many industries hooked into Christmas.
The October to December are going to make or break your year.
It's when the business goes from being in the red to being in the black, and that could be anything from the 3M division that makes Scotch tape all the way up
ribbon,
to,
right?
So it seems to be so interwoven to the success of our economy that the season does this. It's kind of fascinating, right?
Jeez. Did you see, I posted it a couple weeks ago. We didn't talk about it, though. But I posted a rainbow Christmas tree. Did you see that?
On Facebook, yeah.
Yeah. What'd you think of that?
What did you think of it?
That was tacky.
I like a traditional tree myself.
But it's interesting because it's been on there. It's been up there now for a couple weeks, and lots of people. It's one of those trigger things you don't know. People commenting
on the rainbow tree.
Oh, yeah,
and they like it.
No, most people don't like it. But then,
is that it?
No, there was a different one. I have it on our Facebook page at Focus Group Radio. But if you look at, it's similar to that. But this one was not as nice. That one's pretty well.
So it's a fake tree.
It's a fake tree, artificial tree. But apparently, rainbow trees are big this year. And so after I posted it, and I saw it at a store in Rehoboth, the number of other people posted other rainbow trees. And then some of the listeners posted their trees. One woman has a turquoise tree.
Oh, my God.
Someone has a pink tree or whatever. So, yeah, that's the one that I posted. It looked to me a little bit like the orange looked a little burnt or something. The yellow wasn't so yellowy, and it was $99. How would you decorate that?
Well, first, you'd have to use clear lights, right?
Yeah.
Because any colored light's going to either get lost or interfere with the color crossing the rainbow. Second, I don't know. I just like a green tree. Even if it's fake, I just like green.
Well, someone said, why not just do a white tree then with colored lights and da-da-da-da-da. But, in Philadelphia, they do all these trees that are flocked.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're baby blue or they're pink and all these really horrible colors. But I don't know. I saw that rainbow tree and I just thought I'd say 90% of the people do not like it. But you'll probably pick one up cheap.
Sure, but
after the holiday.
It just doesn't say Christmas to me. It just doesn't say anything. It's just a rainbow-colored fake tree. It doesn't say Christmas.
No, it doesn't. Christmas is campy enough. You don't need to add to it, right? I mean, it's already campy and over the top. And
when we were kids, the camp started when Rudolph would air. With your nose so bright, won't you guide my... Oh, little outcast, guide my sleigh tonight, right?
Yeah, you have a gay old time. Christmas.
Speaking of which, I don't know if you've seen it. I think it's a Mercedes-Benz ad, because they always do this thing where they portray Santa as a Mercedes driver.
Oh, yeah.
And he's driving like, I think it's a two-door car, two-door coupe of theirs. He pulls up to this thing, a deer comes out, and Santa touches the deer, and his nose glows red. And I'm like... Thanks, Santa. You just made me a freak with my other deer pal. Because now I got a red nose, but I know it's supposed to be Rudolph. But I was very put off by that. I'm like, Santa shouldn't do that.
No?
You're smiling.
But you're right. The Mercedes always does play the Santa and the sleigh sort of thing with the car. Yeah, it's like happy Honda days is what Honda does and all that other craziness. But yeah, the car sales are coming. So, well, anyway, think about saving the planet by not being so overly generous this holiday season. Although John says it's going to shut the economy down. No, but I wonder if there's a way to just package this stuff differently. I remember one year I gave my niece a pony. It was like she loved this horse. Well, it came in a box, right? And then you took the box away. So the box had that clear plastic window, and it was cardboard. Then the horse was mounted to the cardboard with no less than 10 twisty ties that took forever to get off. And she's sitting there, and she can't wait to get the horse. And you're like, hold on, honey, I got 9 more to go. Overly packaging drives me crazy, but I think it's so people don't steal, right?
Or, Bob explained it to me. He said it's the presentation. They don't want that horse to move in the box. So if you're on the store shelf, you want that thing to be right where it's supposed to be. So if it takes you 10 or 12 twisty ties, and they're the clear kind that
You're right.
So, 20 minutes later, with the last one practically cutting my fingers off, I was like, okay, now I can play with the horse. And she'd already moved out another package. Horse is ready. Okay.
Well, on that note, as we get storming or steaming. Steaming? Is it steaming?
Steaming your way towards the holidays.
Steaming our way toward Black Friday. We want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. It's our favorite holiday. We hope all of you have a great time with whoever you're spending your holiday with, and then get ready for the onslaught on Friday. For Black Friday and Cyber Monday. Thanks to our friends at Deep Discount. They've got a Black Friday cyber sale going on. The new releases this week are both Bette Davis movies that we like, Now Voyager and All About Eve. Thanks to the boys in the booth, Garrett, Steve, and Robbie Bobby in there. We hope you guys have a nice holiday and eat lots of turkey. And thank you, John. Remember to arrive alive out there. Don't text and drive, particularly this holiday season. A lot of people on the road. We want you to be back safe and listen to us in December. Yep.
It's The Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash. Accessible on all platforms. Subscribe, like, and rate us on your platform of choice. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com.
That was a stunning focus group.